That'd be cooler than it was. I have something prepared. Welcome to Feel Better with Carly, the podcast where women come to feel heard, supported, and uplifted. I'm Carly, your online big sister, here to share real advice, relatable stories, and positivity to help you feel happier in your everyday life. This is your judgment-free zone to be yourself. So let's just dive in.
And I'm a man.
Did you like that intro?
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks, ChatGPT helped me write it. Welcome to Feel Good with Carly. This is episode 1.
It's like a putty knife.
You can't get distracted. You have to stay focused. Don't play with my toys. If you guys are tuning in on the podcast, we are back home at Idaho, down in my office. This will probably be my new setup. I'm liking it. Gives and allows room for space for guests. We have our first guest. Introduce yourself, guest. Would you like to?
I'm husband, Jackson. Hopefully everything I say today is good and makes sense. I think I know what we're going to talk about, but
it's 9:24.
I'm kind of surprised.
At night.
I'll be kind of surprised is what I meant.
Where the conversation leads?
Yeah.
It's so if you're listening and you're not watching on YouTube, imagine this. It's 9:24 at night. We just have got four of our children down. High five on that tag team. I have no makeup on. I just got out of the bath. I'm hot. And I was walking with all of these products in my hands. I have like all these skincare products and hair oil and cuticle oil, kind of like my nightly regime I want to do. And he's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to go downstairs and film a podcast. And not that you gave me any judgment, but I think there was a slight but you recorded that today, like when you're in your jammies. And I was like, I know, I
thought you already did it. And I was like, oh, did you not like it? Do you have to do it again?
I did it in the middle of the day, but I just felt like I was kind of being this like preachy, whiny little bitch or something. I don't know. I keep thinking about what I said and I was like, I don't know if I really loved what I was saying. And you know, when you're in the middle of the day with all the things that you're like the middle of your to-do list of the day, you know, and we still had so much more ahead of us. And I was like worried about getting the girls down for their naps. And I just feel like I was rushed. And I'm like, there's something about when you get your kids down, your brain just kind of was like, oh, you know, and I feel like I have a better brain flow after I put my kids down. No?
You need to be in the zone for podcasts.
Yeah. Be able to like speak. And I didn't like the intro. I've been trying to figure out my intro, but I really like that. It's a little long. I don't know if I can memorize that, but I'm gonna do my best. But anyways, here we are. Episode 1 of Feel Good with Carly. It feels really good to be putting this out there. I'm excited to be uploading these episodes, watch myself find more of a flow. Excited to see like how I implement changes and just, you know, make the experience better for everyone watching and listening. So I thought that we would just have a chat, which I'm excited to have you on because I feel like I love the conversations that we have when we're just like going back and forth. And I feel like we've both, the topic that we're going to be on tonight is mental health. And kind of our relationship and where we're at with that and what we've experienced so far. And I feel like this topic particular, we both have had enough where we can put some ideas on the table and just share our experiences. We're not doctors. We're not giving any medical advice. We're just coming from a place of like, let's share our experiences and, you know, what mental health means to us. So I'm just going to take off the spectacles here and just put on some eye masks. I just thought it would be fun to do some like self-care.
During the show?
Yeah.
Good idea.
And just have some conversation, you know?
Yeah.
So when you hear the word not self-care, when you hear the word, that's going to be some good ASMR for the pod. I was opening up.
Whoa, man.
Oh, don't break nice things. So does it feel small in here for you? You're like a big man in this little
I'm kind of like
beauty office.
in this little angle corner here.
Yeah. So I think potentially I need to end up getting like a couch or I don't know, something. I do like being behind this, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like
the desk forward a little bit.
I'm very like news reportery, you know?
Breaking news.
Yeah. And I also, it feels weird for me to talk straight to the camera and not to be doing anything with my hands. I feel like I need to be like touching something or.
That's why I'm spinning this pen around, but I don't know if they can see it.
Oh yeah, they probably could see it. Or like I feel like I can have a better connection with my thoughts. If I close my eyes, so if you see me doing that, it's because it helps me think better. And 2, like the podcasters wear podcast headphones. So if you guys think the audio, I don't know, let me know. What's the feedback on the audio if it sounds good? We have these mics on, but I don't know, maybe like the headphones and the microphone help you just to like hear each other better. And should we go put on our Apple headphones so we look like podcasters?
I have mine, little earbuds.
I have my big ones. Okay, so let's get into it. And I'm excited to see how vulnerable you're willing to be. Let's talk about mental health. Where are you at with that right now? Rip the Band-Aid off. Oh, eyebrow scratch.
Mental health. Mm-hmm. Well.
Oh, that smells good.
I will say.
Also, I will do this to you if you want me to while you're talking.
That's okay.
I offered to put on his eye masks. I'm doing grapefruit. What are these? These are grapefruit, golden, depuffing, and brightening eye masks.
Don't show Lenny. She'll rate them from you.
I know. That's where my last year went. My daughter, my 6-year-old, thinks that she
loves them.
Needs to be doing skincare. That's a whole other tangent. Like skincare, I was putting Dial soap on my face till I was like 20. Lenny has like a 20-step routine she does before bed.
She's gonna look 20 when she's 100.
She's gonna look 12 when she's 40. They start young. They start so young. Okay, are these even? Can you see?
This one's lower.
Oh, okay, it's gonna slip a little. Okay, so yeah, sorry, you guys tangent. Mental health, where are you at with that?
I don't know where I am with that. I will say 10 years ago, when I heard people say that they were struggling with their mental health, I had no clue what that meant. And honestly, probably in an insensitive way, I thought that they were just being wimps.
Maybe not insensitive, but just naive.
Naive and insensitive. Like I thought, like, oh, mental health, like tough it up, you know. And granted, I'd been through a lot in my life, but for some reason, I just had this ability to shrug things off, not let it bug me. You know, I've always been kind of a softie. Like
That's why I married you.
You know, I'm kind of a softie, but you know, when I needed to, I could put on like the turtle shell and just let things kind of roll off of me. And so I honestly kind of thought like, you know, mental health, or you have anxiety, or you're depressed, like go for a run or eat a candy bar. Like, so.
You didn't quite know what it meant to you at that point. Like you just thought.
I may have had sympathy for them, like, oh, I'm sorry you're going through that, but I didn't have any sort of understanding or deeper insight. And even now, I wouldn't consider myself like a depressed person at all. Like, depression is something I've never really struggled with. Although, when we did take fertility drugs
Clomid
to get pregnant with Elliot.
The boys' version of Clomid. I think it's still Clomid, but we both were on Clomid, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know, but after like a month of taking that, I threw it out. And I was like, I'm not.
Our backstory, we couldn't get pregnant when we were trying. We tried for like 3 or 4 months. We had a miscarriage. So that was hopeful because our doctor did say, you know, that's good news because, you know, it doesn't feel like that, but that shows that you can get pregnant. And then we tried for a couple more months or 1 more month. And he just, because he was a family friend, he was like, you know, fertility.
He kind of fast-tracked us to medicine.
Yeah, he was like, most people wait, you know, can wait. And he's like, but if you guys want to have a baby and you want answers, like there's no need to wait more than, well, I can't remember his advice, but it was basically like people have it in their mind that they need to wait all these years. Like just come in if you want to run the tests and you know, can afford to do that, then let's do that. So fortunately we're in a place where we're like, yeah, let's just.
Whatever that medicine
Jackson got to do sperms in the jar. That was really fun. That's another story.
Yeah, and I mean, we have all the medical stuff. Like, it's not like he just put us on drugs and then you know, they tested us and said, oh, the likelihood is pretty low of getting pregnant. And then when I took that medicine, like, that made me feel, not depression, but just like I
numb.
could tell it was the drugs. And I was like, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
So luckily, once I threw it out, right after that, it must have still been effective, and we got pregnant, and then we got pregnant again, and then again, and then again. So
I think it made us super fertile.
Yeah.
I never really understood how that all worked out and the timing of it all.
Excuse me.
But I'm grateful, and that was our journey. So something that I think that we're both in a place to talk about, I also have felt pretty much like my entire life, I've never really had to face the struggles of depression or anxiety. When people would say that, kind of in like maybe insensitive or this naive thought of like, that sucks, like why are you sad, like life's so great, or you know, I just didn't quite understand why they would feel sad. And it was with, you know, when my experience with the people who were going through that, it was like so easy as an outsider to look in and be like, well, everything in your life looks great. Why are you sad? You know, and that's my understanding and disconnect now, is not realizing that really it is a hormonal imbalance, and that you can have the most perfect life, the most perfect setup, the most blessed job, situation, and still struggle with anxiety, depression. And that's, I think mental health covers a really vast, like, you know, there's a lot under that umbrella. I think we're specifically trying to lean into depression and anxiety, for us specifically, on where we relate. And so same with you, like I never really could grasp why someone would struggle, but I remember when we were first married, like that first year, and we were about to go to a concert, remember? And you were just like having a little bit of anxiety. Do you remember that? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. That was like the only time until like 2 years ago, maybe not 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, that I had any sort of like anxiety or panic feeling. I'm pretty mellow, like sometimes overly mellow. And, you know, I definitely have an understanding now of like anxiety is a very real thing.
Right.
And unfortunately it like took me going through it to understand what people are talking about. I guess I'm not a doctor, so maybe I'm being too hard on myself, but like the place I'm in now is like, man, I've got a lot of empathy, not just sympathy, for people that have ever felt anxiety. And I'm lucky I don't have anxiety every day or really all that often. But like a year and a half ago, like I sat up out of bed one night and like my ears were ringing and my heart rate was just going crazy. And I felt this like tingling feeling over my body. It was like 3 a.m. and
I was just oblivious, sleeping, snoring, sawing logs.
I was like so confused. I'm like, am I having a heart attack?
I'm doing a lip scrub, by the way. That's why I'm rubbing my lips.
I don't think it's a heart attack. Am I having an allergic reaction? I was like, you know, my hands were clammy.
Do you feel like that was the first time you had ever like gone through that? Like, were you like, what is happening?
Never in my life have I ever had any, and I've never had one that bad since that. So, you know, being a man and a tough guy, like I just ignored it for a long time. And
was that the night though that you went into Lenny's room? Because you were like really scared.
Like I didn't know what was going on. I was super tired. I was like delusional. Like my heart was just pounding. I couldn't get it to calm down. I mean, it was terrifying. And, you know, it wasn't a panic attack that was caused by anything in life. You know, I didn't feel overwhelmed. Like I went to bed. I remember that night I went to bed totally calm. And then something like in my brain just caused that adrenaline dump, and it like woke me up. So
but that was the night I remember specifically. I think you woke me up earlier that morning because you did end up falling back asleep, and you're like, I don't know what happened last night, but at one point I was in Lenny's room, curled up on the ball, thinking that you were having a heart attack, because really, like, if you've never gone through having a true anxiety attack, you were unaware of maybe what was going on, or you weren't sure. And then I think that's like a slippery slope. Your brain starts to like scare you a little, assume the worst. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, at first I was like super scared, and that just triggers it even more. And I almost woke you up, almost called the ambulance, honestly.
I wish you would have woken me up.
And then I was like, oh, I need to figure out what's going on. I got my phone and I Googled like symptoms of a panic attack, and it was like check. And I was like, that calmed me down a little bit, which is weird.
Yeah. Because maybe knowing what it was, maybe like that's obviously not better, but knowing that it wasn't a larger issue of like a heart attack or something that maybe your brain was trying to like land on.
You know, knock on wood. But like from that moment on, I've just had this like whole new appreciation and like understanding of people that have anxiety and panic attacks. And mine will flare up every once in a while.
We've gotten pretty good about like
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But now that I'm so used to it, and I've gotten an EKG or multiple and done all the tests, done all the blood tests, like I know I don't have anything wrong. That's almost calming.
Yeah, you know you're healthy.
You know, I can breathe through things like that now, and I can, if I feel it coming on, I'm like, aware, oh, this is coming on. But it was like really, like just sitting up out of bed and your like heart rate's going 140. Like that's a very scary, uncomfortable feeling. And unfortunate because a lot of people get it all day, every day.
Yeah.
Right? And they can't function. They've got to take medication.
It's debilitating.
And I don't blame them. Like that medication is a lifesaver for a lot of people.
Right.
I've really tried to avoid taking something that I have to be dependent on every day and just trying to fight through it. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing a great job, and then others I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
But it's a scary thing, and I feel lucky that I don't have it near as bad as a lot of people. But
do you feel comfortable sharing about the night that when we first moved in, we had to call the ambulance?
Yeah, I've had like, I don't know, 3 or 4 panic attacks.
Also, I did, before I brought him on and asked if he wanted to do the podcast, he was on the couch upstairs on his phone. Just like, we're unwinding. I just got out of the bath and we're just kind of decompressing. He's like, you're going to do the podcast? I'm like, you could join me. Would you want to talk about this with me? So I did run this by him. I'm not just like springing on your vulnerabilities. But I remember you waking me up and you were like, you need to feel my heart. You need to feel my heart. And it was going crazy. Like I could feel it, like the bump, bump, bump. And it was fast. And it was like, I could feel the vibrations. And so that's when I was like, do I call 911? Like, what do I do? And you're like, I think you remember you had said like, let's wait a minute or so. And then you were like, yeah, let's call, because it wasn't coming down. Your heart rate wasn't coming down.
Yeah,
so for someone who's like the spouse or the partner or the friend trying to support the other person, I think like what's really important, you can tell me if I haven't done a good job or not, but I think it's important to listen to them. And I was just trying to de-escalate and calm. I was like, let's go outside, let's go in the cold air, like let's take deep breaths, like, or trying to distract him and bring something else up. But that one specific episode was pretty intense, and the paramedics came up. They were really great to you. The guy was like, I think this is what's happening. You're having a panic attack. It's legit. Like, I was grateful that they weren't like, so it was like 3 a.m,
Yeah, it was, I don't wish it on my worst enemy, but I have a medicine that, helps me fall asleep. I get it like in the middle of the night for some reason. Like I can be totally mellow, lay down, fall asleep, and then at like 2:30 I wake up and I'm like, oh. But now after having gone through that, and you feel dumb, like you feel really dumb, like going to the doctor and they're like, oh, it's a panic attack,
Yeah, I don't think you should feel dumb.
And you're like, well, okay.
It's just hard. It's really hard because no one likes to be sick. No one likes to feel like something is foreign to their body and making you feel like, and you don't sleep well when it happens. And then, that big adrenaline like spike and then the dump, like you get so exhausted and then you like, the next day you're like lethargic. And having 4 kids and not sleeping is, we have 5 kids, but Cooper sleeps through the night, thankfully.
Yeah.
Is a lot. So what would your advice be to maybe somebody who's like, hey, I can relate to where he's at, like I know what he's going through, or maybe somebody is just, specifically like wondering more about anxiety. And again, we're not giving medical advice. This is literally just from our own experience. And also if you're watching and or listening and you are maybe the spouse, like for me, I'm always just like, what can I do better? How can I support you? How can I just like be there for you better when you're in those moments? Because sometimes when I'm tired and I'm exhausted and you've had a couple of episodes, it's hard for me to like, I think be fully 100% there. I'm like tired too. And so sometimes like, I'm like, it's, it's fine. And I don't feel like I do as good a job as I should.
Well, the good news is the longer you have anxiety, the more you get used to it and you can like cope with it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. First piece of advice is if there's any doubt in your mind, just go to the doctor, make sure you're healthy. Because symptoms of anxiety are similar to other more serious things. So go get checked out. And, if you're okay there, then okay, it's just my anxiety. And then it's a mental battle. And, some people would be perfect for medication, taking something to help the anxiety. I've stopped. I haven't done that. Mm-hmm. Like I have a prescription for Ativan, which really calms people, but that's so addictive. Like I'm terrified of medicine.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen you take that more than like maybe
I've only ever taken one.
Yeah.
Hydroxyzine is like entry-level anxiety medicine, and that's what I take to just fall asleep.
Right.
But it's not addictive, or like you don't become physically dependent on it. So you kind of go like up the ranks. And then I don't even know the names of the other anti-anxiety medicine, but like that's another one.
Do you feel like, notice like when you work out and...
Working out helps a ton.
What about sex? Does sex help a ton?
Yeah, you get really relaxed and fall asleep easy. Magnesium helps a lot. That helps me. I always forget to take it.
You said that messed up your stomach.
Not the Calm brand. That stuff. Sorry, Calm, if you're watching. That stuff sucks.
I like that one. It's like the powdered one you put in your drink and mix. That one makes me feel so just like I'm melting into my bed right now.
I just like the little pills. Magnesium glycinate.
You take those at night?
If I remember.
What about those lithium ones I bought you? Those like vitamins? Have you tried those?
Yeah, that didn't do. I took it for like a month. It didn't do much.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's better also in the summer when we're outside and more active? In Idaho right now, it's really hard. It's like you literally don't really go outside from end of October to maybe April. So we're a little more cooped up.
I don't know. I haven't really noticed a pattern. Like it's getting much better.
Right.
Like I feel like I went through a phase where I was like just freaked out all the time because I didn't know what was happening. Then it started to get better, and slowly starting to get better. I've noticed social media is a big one. Like I'll be
like it's a trigger.
I'll be like 12 at night on Twitter, and I'm like seeing what's happening around the world, and I'm like, and I can't sleep.
Yeah, you do get like the markets, like when you start seeing like, because we're in the Mountain Center time. Do you also think that there's something to social media where it's like a dopamine thing? I was actually reading this somewhere where it's like we're so addicted to these dopamine hits that we're like actually like so desensitized and just are constantly craving and looking for that next hit almost, because it's like somewhere, I think it was in a Mel Robbins book where they had said that like you get the same like dopamine rush or hit as somebody who is like playing the slot machines in Vegas, and like the first thing that we do when we get up in the morning is get on your phone and check. I do. I'm not saying you do. And she said that if you can break that habit, it just helps your brain not want to crave that all day long. It kind of like breaks that pattern of like trying to get on your phone all day long, which is so hard. It's so hard, especially when you work from your phone, like your clients, everything is on your phone for you as well. Yeah,
like you probably noticed, like I have my headphones in at night a lot.
I've been yelling at him lately because he'll be like, what? And I'm like, take out your headphones and you can hear me. And he's like, it helps me. I'm like, okay, fine.
I just turned on audiobooks, and I've got a story going on, and it's like distracting me because my brain is the type of brain where if I see something that engages me, regardless of what time it is, like I get engaged. Okay,
but that's so hilarious. Like, because I understand the listening to something to fall asleep at night, but the things that you listen to are literally war books. So I'll like wake up at like shoot up in bed and someone in the book is like getting shot at and there's like a bombing and a plane and I'm like, this is calming, it's relaxing here. And you're just over there like
fiction, like in my brain, it's like I could look at the news or social media is good at making you feel bad about your life because you see everybody else's life and
not at Feel Good with Carly.
Yeah, well, that's why I love what you're doing. Yeah,
that's true.
And I'm guilty of it. If you look at my Instagram feed, it looks like everything's completely perfect. And I've never posted about anxiety or been like, oh, I slept for 2 hours last night because I was so amped up on adrenaline. But there's like whole sides of people's lives that you don't see. So I've just said dramatically limit that. There's nothing that's so important that can't wait until 7 a.m. And then I've slept, I'm recharged.
You're talking about your phone usage at this point right now.
Yeah, I just like stories. I like listening to, they're all fictional, entertaining stories, and it helps me just kind of zone out.
I did take a page out of your book yesterday. The girls, you were with Elliot and Lenny at Jiu-Jitsu and dance, and I was home with Joey and Max, and I was they were in the bath, and I had just, when you hear them screaming and screaming and screaming all day long, you're just like, oh my gosh, I need a break. I put in my Apple earpods, and I turned on church music, MOTAB, Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
It helps.
And I literally just felt zen. I was like, they were in the bath, and they were laughing, and I was just listening to church music, and I was like, I just needed a break. There's got to be, I think we're the same in that, where we really get overstimulated with loud, constant noise.
I grew up in a very, very quiet house. Very quiet.
I'm a loud person.
Like, that's the first thing I notice when I go to her family. The volume on the TV is at like 100. I'm like, what is happening?
No, it's called Butler volume. And my parents, like, I'm not that way though. I do like the TV loud, but you're a little, like, you like the TV on volume 12. I'm like, at least put it on 25. I can't hear it. But my parents will literally just have the TV on like 50 and not even be in the room. They just want the TV on. I'm not that way though. Like,
calm.
I like music maybe when I'm doing dishes or something, but like, I don't want the TV just blaring in the background for no reason.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just TV, like loud sounds, and I'm not complaining because kids, I love that they laugh and that they scream and that they're crazy, but when you're having like a elevated anxiety and then you hear that, or
like a loud, the scream or a cry,
if you're watching something loud, or your mind gets loud because you're like, yo, what did we do in Palestine and how many people are dying and all the whatever it is, like, then it's just so much noise, whether it's like mental noise or actual noise. So I've just been like,
maybe
I take
we
my
need to start meditating. Like, we just need to carve out time in our day where it's like quiet,
That helps a lot. I got this app called Rooted. And it's like this little, like a little fuzzy guy on the screen, like a little gremlin or something.
Yeah.
And then you like hold it in your hand and it vibrates, and you breathe in while it expands, and you breathe out.
Oh, so it's like a breathing exercise through and out.
Yeah, it's called Rooted. The story of the founder is like super cool. Is this lady that struggled with anxiety forever,
and she just like breathing.
And she was a computer. Maybe I don't even know if she's a computer developer, but she just was like, I'm going to start an app that's going to help people. It's like $20 a year or something.
Well, it's worth it. Anything to invest in your mental health, especially if you're struggling, even if it's something like an app or an audiobook. I tease you, but it's just in fun.
It helps me a ton. Like, it's gotten significantly better over the past year. Like, it was 6 months where I was just like, what is this? Like, it just hit me. No clue. Never had anxiety. Never learned about it. I heard people say I've got anxiety, and I was like, what? So
it really came on
a lot better.
I think. I mean, it's like so fascinating, but like evil at the same time, because like we got to this place where we had just got this house, we were having like our babies, everyone was healthy, everything was great, and it was just like you were struggling. Seeing you struggle made me struggle, but I was trying to be a safe place for you and strong, but I feel like I wasn't helping you, which feels so like, it just was eating at me that I couldn't help you and I couldn't fix it and I couldn't solve it. And so then I felt like I was struggling, and it just felt like we were never going to find hope or light. And I think anybody that's like in this thickness of, if your partner is struggling with anxiety or depression, or you are yourself, like, I think the messaging here is that let's normalize that people struggle, that human beings struggle, and there's nothing wrong with you, and that if everything in your life is perfect, or there is hardships and it is bringing on this anxiety, that start having these hard conversations. Like, even I think this feels like helpful, and you coming to me when you had your first one felt helpful. And some of the times where I felt like we got out of the thick situations and hard times that we were in, we'd go out in the summer and sit on our porch and take our blankets with us, and it'd be like 2 a.m. in the morning, and we would just sit under the stars and talk until you would calm, I would calm, we'd go back in. But there's
a practice, I can't remember what it's called, and I'm butchering it, so bear with me, but there's like when you're in the middle of it, you're supposed to like find something that you feel like, okay, this is a pain.
It's the touch points.
And then point out a color, listen to a sound, pick up on a smell, and like you go through the different senses. And I found that helped quite a bit.
Like taking your mind through this mental exercise and not
just figuring, like, especially if it's at night or if it's like in the middle of the day, it catches you completely off guard. It just kind of helps you like ground yourself.
Right.
I was actually thinking about this yesterday. The funny thing is, like, now that I'm through it and it's completely manageable and not impacting my daily life anymore, because there was like a period there of like a month or two that it was like, oh, this sucks. I'm actually glad that I have it and that I went through it, because I feel like I opened up this whole part of my like soul that, like, the odds are one of our kids is going to get it or struggle with something like that. And I didn't have any clue at all. And so, funny enough, like, and I know I'm at the top of the mountain now, looking back, it's easy to say once you've hiked all the way to the top, but yeah, I'm really glad I have it and went through it and can manage it, because now whether it's a kid or a family member or one of your family members just had one, and now I can like,
hopefully
reach out and help. Like it's a good. I feel like I kind of conquered like a slayed a dragon,
Yeah.
Which is cool. I feel tough.
You have gotten better at, when you have the episodes, like I'll feel you in the night and I'll like know what's going on. I'm like, are you okay? And you're like, yeah, it's gonna be okay. And like I can hear you breathing and I'm like, I'm so proud of it.
There's been a lot of nights where I've gotten out of bed and our bed is really good for laying flat, but we don't you can't really like lay up.
I'm gonna tease him. Our bed is good for laying flat.
Well, like some people sleep with a ton of pillows and you can like sit up against the bed and like kind of recline up.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of nights where I've gone like onto the couch and just like sat there, and that, I don't know why, but that helps.
Why did that seem so funny to me? Because it's so late?
I don't know. I think I've watched the Harry Potter movies like probably 15 times each because I'm like, oh, this is a good show. And then it like cheers you up. It's stupid, but it's like not stupid. Each person finds a thing that gives them like that anchor point or that comfort point, and you can get through it. Like physical touch helps a lot. Like when someone's touching you. Now when you're in the middle of it and they're like, oh, come here, you just like need a break and you're like, hold on, and you like have to do that. But
that's good to know. I won't try to physically touch.
No, that's not what I meant. Just like in the peak of when you feel so restless.
That's like when I'm mad and you want to talk and I'm like, don't touch me.
Yeah. The one that I'm not excited if I ever go through, unfortunately haven't gone through, that might even be tougher than anxiety, is depression.
Yeah.
Like that's never hit me. I've never, regardless of what stage of life I was in, I've always been optimistic. And just like dealt with whatever came my way and just, it is what it is. So I've got sympathy for people that have depression and those feelings, but I don't have empathy just because it's never, I've never gone through it. So,
oh man, that was what hit me this past summer. And I think because of what you had gone through and like what we were going through, like, trying to solve together, I've never had postpartum depression or had like baby blues, like maybe a little bit, but nothing that I wasn't ever able to like see through it. It always seemed to just be like a very short time period for me, and then I was, fine. But man, this last summer, I finally remember when I sat you down, I was like, I really need to talk to you. Like, I'm really, really struggling, and I think that something is going on. And I think it was like accumulation of being burnt out on social media, being overwhelmed with having 5 kids, trying to run a full-time household and stay afloat in business and make money. And it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was having so many thoughts of like just ways I wanted to die. And that was like so foreign for me because I'm a happy person. I'm a happy person. And that just was like, I remember thinking like, it didn't feel scary to me. It actually felt like this relief. And that was actually, that's when I like snapped out of it. And I was like, oh, this is what this is. Like, I need to talk to somebody about that, because the thought of me like putting myself through these scenarios of like where I would die was feeling like relief. And then hearing myself say that, I was like, oh no, that's a problem. So I'm so grateful that I could talk to you and you're like, it's fine. Like, you're okay. It's like, not that you're okay, but like, there's nothing wrong with you. This is probably what you're experiencing. Go and see somebody. So then I went and talked to a doctor and I told him everything, and he was really great. And I ended up getting on sertraline, like a very low dose of sertraline. And that was so gnarly. Like, anybody who's taken that, it was really gnarly for me. My own experience, I can only speak from what I went through, but I like was so nauseous. I was like vomiting, diarrhea, like just for 3 days. You feel very fluish because it's like balancing out the receptors in your brain. He went over everything with me. I don't remember it all, but he said that's almost a good sign because it's doing what it needs to do. So I was on that for like 2 weeks, and then I ended up just being like, I don't want to be on this, and I don't recommend that. I probably shouldn't have done this, but I just kind of went off of it cold turkey. But surprisingly, like, I feel like ever since that episode and like that month, I'm so much better. And just talking to him, and I don't know if taking medication like that for 2 weeks could have done anything, but I definitely haven't returned to that place, and I'm grateful. But like you said, like when you haven't gone through it, you can't quite understand until you do go through it, and then it gives you like a deeper understanding. And it just helps me to want to hold space for anyone who has, because it's really scary and it feels really lonely. And I just know there's hope out there if you are somebody who struggles with that or has struggled with that.
Yeah, and then, I mean, medication works. Like, that's why we invent this stuff. And I don't want to come across as anti-medicine.
Yeah, no, same.
You know, one thing I think that also felt good is, like, talking to you, like, you know everything about me. So it's like, you know, I get comfort from you. But when you actually talk to a doctor, you know, like, if you're telling me, like, I've got all these feelings and I'm like, oh, it's okay, you know, like, what can I do?
Yeah.
That's one thing. But then when you get to go to an actual doctor and tell them, and they acknowledge it, and then they tell you, like for me, it was like, you know, I feel like I've just got done sprinting and like I'm worried about my heart. And then they like go through it all, they do the tests, and they come back and they're like, it's anxiety. And they listen to you. Like, that feels almost like empowering, almost like, like, okay, this professional listened to me and they're telling me after, you know, with their huge education and they understand these things. Like, it's kind of relieving.
Well, nothing's worse than like when you're having these symptoms and you're like, you can't put it, like, you can't figure out why. Like, what will, you know, there's no answer. Like, I hate when we take our kids in to the doctor and they have all these symptoms. Like, it's a virus. And it's like, I'd almost just wish that I didn't go in. Like, grateful it's not anything worse, obviously. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels just really nice to like put a name with a face or a title with like a symptom so that you can have closure, almost, is what it feels like.
Yeah, I agree. And I really, like, you got to be careful when you talk about anxiety or when you look up stuff or even depression, because there's so many people out there that's like, oh, just fix it naturally and do all these remedies. And like, I think that's a good place to start.
Right.
And fortunately for me, like, you know, I haven't had to go up to these, you know, more powerful drugs because I've been able to get a handle on it. But I don't think you should consider yourself in any way less if that is what you use. Like, that's
well, I think treatments are like on a very, like on a scale, right? And there's like, or it's, for me, it's like a ladder, right? Like, my doctor wasn't just like medicine. Like, he was like, okay, I want to give you this book and I want you to talk to a therapist and I want you to like carve out more time for you and I want you to try to sleep more, and how is your diet, and like, are you exercising? And so it was almost like he was going through this like ladder of things. And of course, like the basics, I was like, no, I'm not sleeping a lot, I'm a new mom, and like, yeah, my diet's bad right now. And you know, so then it was like great reminders of like these little steps I can take to hopefully finding like ways to feel better. But when it comes to mental health, I do feel like there's a lot of knowledge out there, there's a lot of options, there's a lot of recommendations, but what
groups and, you know, people you can go see.
But what you have to do is really just take that step one and, you know, climb that ladder to find what works for you. And, you know, even though like we're sharing our experiences and like, you know, maybe things that helped him kind of helped me, we both had very different experiences, and we can relate in the space of like that hardships. Like, we both were going through different hard times, but I think just hold space for someone if they are struggling and understand that it doesn't happen like a cure won't come quickly, or maybe it will, but like, don't be afraid to climb that ladder and to maybe try things or explore things that maybe you thought wouldn't be helpful for you. One
thing that I learned is once the kids came around and life got busy, I was like, you know what? I need to be 100% selfless and just pour everything I have into everybody else. And that felt gratifying. And then when I got anxiety, like, I realized, wait a second, taking care of me first, or at least, you know, to some degree, giving myself some time, 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, whatever. Like, at first it felt selfish, like, oh, I could be in the backyard playing catch, you know, or, you know, whatever, building blocks or, you know, coloring or whatever. But then I realized, like, hey, if I take this time of the day for me, then the rest, you know, that takes away my anxiety, then the rest of the hours with the family or with you, I'm not like on the brink of feeling anxious or, you know, so it made like the quality of my life better with those relationships because I took time.
Yeah, it's like
not every day I don't do it, but you know, like Probably at least
We
30
got in a
minutes a
fight
day.
about this, remember? And I was like, you need to find a hobby for you. I was like, you give so much to the kids, so much to the family. Like, you need to go back to jitsu. You need to start, go to the sauna. You always like have talked about getting a sauna, or it's like the airplane method, right? Like, you have to put on your oxygen mask before you can help anyone else. Because if you pass out from no oxygen, you're not going to be able to help your kids.
Yeah, or even just like doing 50 push-ups, like,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Like, some people it might be sewing or
It's so it's so
whatever.
crazy when you become a really busy parent or your first time parent. It's so funny how like the silent luxuries of life really like just go the longest. We were just barely in Houston for work, and Jackson's secretary was like, "So what are you gonna do that's fun while you're here?" And I was like, "Honestly, I'm gonna order room service and just sit in my bed in my pajamas in a room with no noise." I was like, number one, I get to eat hot food prepared for me. No one's eating off my plate or bugging me, and I'm not getting up and down 500 times to get water or milk or a fork or a baba. I can just sit and eat my hot food in quiet silence in my pajamas, and I'm not rushing to do anything for anyone else. Like, that is a luxury. And that filled my cup. I really needed that. So thanks for letting me tag along on your work trip.
Yeah, like a 72-hour recharge.
Yeah.
And you just feel stoked.
Can we do that once a quarter?
And my problem was like, I love pouring into other people, but if I don't love pouring into them, like while I'm doing it, then I'm like, oh, I need to be a better dad or a better husband. Then I get anxiety about that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so it's like this downward cycle. So I just realized, like, do my thing when I need to do it, and then that makes my whole day better. And then when I do these things, run kids around, whatever I'm doing for you or for the house or whatever, I can actually enjoy that, and then I feel gratified, and then it makes it even better, and it brings it all down. I don't know. It's like a never-ending cycle, and it's part of adulthood and responsibilities. But it's like at this point, it's something I look at with gratitude. As crazy as that sounds,
You're grateful you felt anxiety?
Yeah.
That's bold.
Well, I think it's helped me become a better person.
Yeah.
I don't like anxiety. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not like, hey, bring it on.
Like, I could have sworn 6 months ago we were not grateful.
No, but you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's like the refiner's fire. I mean, yeah, it sucks. And anybody going through it, if you're hearing this and you're like, I can't, you don't have to be where we're at. And there's going to still be moments in our life where we're going to go through maybe more anxiety, hopefully no more suicidal, scares or ideas, but like it's just that, like you said, it's just like that overcoming and that strength building, and that like it's almost like also like you find this deeper love and appreciation and grace for yourself as a human being, and I think that allows you space to hold for me, to hold for our kids, to hold for yourself, because you get it. Like, you've walked that walk, you've been through that, and how would you be able, like you said earlier, like how would you be able to really truly like connect with me or the kids or a family member, anyone close, if you hadn't yourself gone through that? And I really truly believe like there are things, not everything, I don't agree with everything happens to us for a reason, but I do think there are very specific things that can happen to us that really can, like, you get to decide, is this gonna be for better or for worse, and can I like really take this and use it as a tool in my life, or am I gonna let this be a detriment and drag me down?
I remember after my very first one, it took me like a couple days to like mellow out.
Yeah.
And I remember just rolling down the windows, and I was totally mellow, totally calm. It was warm, and I was like, oh, this life is awesome,
Yeah.
And like a week before that, I would have rolled the windows down and been like, oh, the traffic's bad, or I need to hurry.
So maybe that is just it, is that it helps you really, like, that small moment, that little like 30 seconds of a summer day just went so much like further for you, and you really got to appreciate like a small moment because of like that relief, and you like, it was a good reminder of like, oh, this is a good spot. I think that's important in life, is to really like, when you have those small seconds or those small little blurbs of like, this is great, like that you really take those in, like write them down, think about them, like ponder on them often, because when they do happen, like for us especially, everything is so fast paced and quick right now, that when we have like those little moments, it's like, okay, hang on to that till we get through the hard.
We were in the airplane the other day, and I had fallen asleep like right when the plane took off, and then I woke up and I was like, oh, I wonder how much time is left. And the flight was 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I look at the little flight tracker thing, and it's like 2 hours and 17 minutes left. And
you are the king of power naps. You are very good at power naps.
My gut instinct was like, oh, we saw 2 hours and 17 minutes on this flight. But then I sat there and I just stared at it for a minute and I thought about it and I was like, I had 2 hours and 17 minutes. I'm going to find a movie. And I like picked a movie and
when do we ever get to watch a movie?
Watching a movie, I was like, this is awesome. Like 5 years ago, I'd have been like, come on, let's go. You know, like.
Yeah. Or think about like when, love our kids, you guys, but I think hopefully you can all relate when you get to sit on an airplane and without a child and you're like watching a movie and eating a snack, like that's a simple like little happiness moment. They're not pulling out your headphones or turning around to the person behind you or, you know, we're about to go on an airplane with our kids. So I'm just thinking about that. But
before the camera died, we were talking about, you know, when you get out of the depression funk or the anxiety funk, like it gives you this new appreciation for just small things that I'm guilty of overlooking in the past. So that's been a good positive side effect, or what am I trying to say? Like a positive thing that's
silver lining in a hard time.
In a good way. Like, you know, I can like, we were jamming out to I Like to Move It. Remember Joey singing that?
I like from Madagascar. Turn that on for your kids. That's a great song.
Will I Am. Just those little small things. And I look back and I'm like, man, I wonder how many small things I missed.
Yeah.
In the past, but now that you can have this appreciation for normalcy and feeling normal, like it even kind of magnifies your gratitude for those little tiny, that Jerry Seinfeld thing, I know I say it all the time, but people are guilty of this, and maybe they could even say like, our family is kind of guilty of portraying this, like big trips or like experiences or whatever.
Oh, I read that quote the other day.
Jerry Seinfeld was like, you know, when he was starting his career, he was like, I always envisioned like taking my family to Mexico or taking them to Hawaii or to Europe to see the Eiffel Tower. He's like, I don't care about any of that. I care about like staying up past bedtime, eating bowls of cereal and goofing off and laughing. And like that one clued into me with anxiety when it's like there's total peace, you know, feeling and calm. Like I have so much more appreciation for, you know, not to feel bad for taking your kids to Paris or whatever, but like,
well, you're gonna miss out on like, we're missing out on life, on the like the day-to-day mundane, you know, the feeling of life. If you're always looking forward to like that next trip, or I'll be happy when we get to go on this big vacation, and like you're putting off the little moments of happiness for those next big things, and it's like you're actually missing the bulk of your life, because really those big trips, those experiences,
one a year,
they make up like year. What, like 11% of your life, and
not even
the morning routine and the putting to bed routine and the driving to and from jiu-jitsu and dance, like that's the bulk of our life. So that's where we have to find those little moments and the happiness, because you know, when we're 60 and our kids are married and gone, that's what we're gonna miss. Like that's where we're gonna look back on and be like, oh, I would die to be in carpool today.
I love when we go to, there's this place called Arctic Circle. It's like a little ice cream shack. Getting these little tiny mini ice cream cones and turning back and giving it to Joey, and she's like, thank you, Daddy. Thank you so much, Daddy. Thank you so much. Like,
yeah,
I'd take that over dinner at a restaurant in Hawaii. Like, I acknowledge where that's coming from. We can pray about
that in return.
You know, but like, I don't know, it just made me like,
yeah, it's a good perspective.
I'm stoked on life now, especially when things are calm.
Yeah.
Because I went through that, I have even more stoke. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Or like when I read it, when I listen to a book, I'm like, gosh, this book is good. I love this. And normally I'd be like scrolling Instagram, like the next thing I want to buy, or like looking at my portfolio. Oh, it needs to crack this number. I'm like, yeah, okay. I love this book. I love this little ice cream cone.
And I mean, it's so easy, like, cause like having this conversation now is like just filling my cup and reminding me of like those moments in motherhood throughout the day where I'm like stressed and want to yell and feel so overwhelmed. And then like the kids go down and it's quiet and we're a slower pace. And like, then we're like, you know, I'm getting emotional and thinking about our kids. It's like, you've got to have the yin with the yang in life, and just don't find fault with yourself or guilt yourself if you're feeling overwhelmed. If you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't feel happy driving my kids to dance, I think it's a lot. Like, just find the balance. Don't compare yourselves. Like, we're only speaking from like our experiences, but the thing with mental health, I think that we're both trying to like wrap up and get back to, is just, it truly is something that I feel like there needs more honest conversations, and we don't have a ton of experience. I mean, this has been pretty recent for both of us. I do think it is important that we talk about it. It feels important for me just because I do know that there are so many out there who do struggle, and it's in their daily lives. And again, it's not because we're experts or because we feel like we have great medical advice, but more so just for you to find relatability in the fact that we're normal human beings also up against things that you may be also finding in it's happening to you.
I agree. I'm very guilty of in the past, like that macho man, like, suck it up, you're not a victim, like, but now I look back, I was just dumb and didn't understand what I was saying really, but now it's like, man, I've got a lot of sympathy, empathy, understanding. Granted, my level of anxiety is like a 1 compared to like some of the things I've read and some of the things people go through. So I'm fortunate for that, but just take a break, just mellow out, take care of yourself, go to pros. We're not pros, but go to them.
Oh, I was like, what's pros?
Professionals, like, they help a ton. They help me, they helped you.
Don't be afraid to seek medical attention.
Talk to others. That helped me the most, talking.
Yeah, talking through it. Go on a walk, like, clear your head, sit on your steps.
Meditate, breathe. I always thought that those meditation people were like,
somebody said
they got some screws loose in their head, but then I realized, like, no, they're smarter than all of us.
Wait, have you tried the sour candy thing?
Yeah, that didn't work for me.
Oh, there was, leave it to Instagram. I saw a reel of this doctor. He was a doctor saying that, like, if you're in an anxiety, like you're starting to kick up your anxiety or an anxiety attack, if you put like a really sour thing in your mouth, all of a sudden your brain just like sends a signal and it can help. I don't know.
I think it's that thing I mentioned earlier.
It's not like
medicine. Is this green?
Yeah.
A green can.
My husband's colorblind.
Like, this is the carpet. Like, I think it's like
making fun.
In those moments, at least for anxiety, I don't know about depression, but you're so like, oh, I'm dying, like, what's happening? Then you can like kind of ground yourself by thinking of like sour candy or like cold water. That helps a ton. Like taking a big drink of water.
Have you ever taken a cold shower? Like a cold plunge?
I tried that when I was in the middle of like that month or two where it was
back-to-back anxiety.
The cold did the opposite for me.
Because it spiked your adrenaline.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, that's going to mellow me out. Then I went and sat in the ice tub in the backyard, and I was like, this is going to help.
You're like ready to go.
And then I'm amped up till like 2:30 in the morning. Sauna helps, hot baths, showers.
I feel like I have converted you to so many more luxuries of life. Now, every night, he's such a gentleman. I still bathe every single night, most nights, 99%. When we were first married, you never did, and now you've caught on, and he'll wait and let me take a hot bath, and then he'll take a hot bath. But it's so relaxing, right?
Unless you're sitting too long, then you get sweating and your heart goes up, so you gotta time it perfectly.
My friends always tease me, like, even if I'm in a hotel, I will take a hot bath. I don't care in that tub.
The other night, I was in a hotel with my friend, and I was like getting the flu or something, and it was we were at the grossest hotel. And
just take Clorox wipes.
I was having body aches and like I just felt lousy, and I was like, "Oh, bath's gonna be nice." It was in Las Vegas. I'm laying in this bathtub, like maybe this is a bad idea.
Well, camera died again. That's when you know it's a good conversation, when you're killing batteries and killing time. Time flies when you're talking about deep stuff on Feel Good with Carly.
Next week, you're talking about something fun.
I do have some good ideas and some exciting guests. That girl that we met in Park City. That could be fun. Who has that bus full of toys?
Oh, the sex toy chick?
I know, but hear me out. It could be really interesting and fun. Why not? Yeah. That's a healthy, important part of life.
Butt plugs.
We're titling this Butt Plugs. Oh my gosh. Well, it's late. We need to go to
butt plugs and handcuffs.
Okay. We have a funny story about handcuffs. When we were moving, this is going to wrap up the show. When we were moving, we hired movers, which if you ever move and you can do that, please do that. Hire movers. It was like just the best thing. And one of the movers was in our bedroom taking apart our master bed, and I was in our master closet cleaning the baseboards and vacuuming and just like deep cleaning in there. And I'll never forget, I heard him say, "Ma'am," and I knew he was taking apart your bed, and I knew he had cleaned it, everything. But for some reason I was like, oh no, there's like a bra or some panties or like your, garments, something like random. Like, if there's someone's taking apart your bed and you hear, ma'am, and never would I have thought. And I came out and he's like, I think that these are yours. Do you want to move those for me? And he made it very distinct that he wasn't going to touch them and he wasn't going to move them. My face went bright red. I'm like, oh, underwear. It's underwear for sure. I walk over, our footboard is still up, so I couldn't see what he was like pointing at. I walk over and like peek into the bottom of the bed, and I'm like, what is it going to be? It's handcuffs. And of course, the first thing that I say is, they're not mine, I swear. Like it was my mom catching me or something. But the truth is, they really were our kids' play handcuffs. And they
from
just
like the dollar store or
somehow got under our bed. And he was just like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to go into it. Like, I'm not going to move those. And then I just was like, I swear they're not mine, they're my kids, and they just play with them. And then that just kept sounding weirder, which I'm really good at, just, you know, making things more awkward. And so then I just picked them up and I was like, I'm gonna let you do your thing, and I walked out. And that was a fun story with handcuffs. So maybe we should try them though.
Fuzzy ones.
Okay, a little softer ones next time on the pod. All right, you guys, thank you for watching Feel Good with Carly. I hope that this episode helped you to feel like a little lighter and a little better about your life. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. Keep the conversation going. Let us know where you're at in your life and if this helped you in any way. If you have advice to give or feedback, we'd love that. If you're listening it to on the pod, give it a review. If you want to help me out, share this with a friend. That could be helpful.
Send it around.
Send it around, give it some love, and we'll see you next week for episode 2. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Give Jackson some love for being on our first official episode of Feel Good with Carly Wood and Jackson Wood. Love you, bye.